Hello, everybody. Mike Shredder here from Stretch Stakes. I'm here with Stephan Rapaglia he's actually an Amherst grad like myself, and now he's doing great things in the baseball world. So first of all, Stephan, thank you so much for joining the podcast. Really glad to have you on.
Thanks, Mike. I'm really happy to do this. I appreciate you giving me this chance to talk.
Absolutely. So before we get into what you're doing now, I want people to get an insight into your career, right? Obviously, you played baseball at Amherst College, then obviously with the Astros for a little bit. Can you talk a little bit about just that career a little bit, where the passion for baseball stemmed from, and then go into your career a little bit from that?
Sure. Actually, I was recruited to Amherst as both a baseball and basketball player. In high school, I would have said basketball was my favorite sport, and I really wanted to play two sports in college. But the way it worked out for me is that I was much better at baseball than I was at basketball. So after a year of doing both, I focused on baseball and had really great teammates and a fantastic coach. Bill Thurston is a baseball legend. He was at Amherst for 44 years, and he was my coach. He really helped develop me as a pitcher. And after a really great 4-year run with all of my teammates, I got a chance to play a little bit of professional baseball with the Astros. I was signed as a non-drafted free agent for a few dollars and a glove, um, which was fun. Actually, playing baseball at Amherst was more fun, but it was really cool to be given that opportunity. And then I only played a year in the Astros organization before they got rid of me. And I called Coach Thurston up, and I knew he had a lot of international baseball experience, which we're talking about 1993. There were very, very few American coaches at that point who had any international baseball experience. But Thurston was an outlier. And my mother's German. I'd done a fall semester in Vienna. Which we'll come back to, by the way, but I really loved the idea of having a chance to go play in Europe. And Coach Thurston sent me to play for the Neptunus Club in Rotterdam, Holland, which is arguably the best baseball club in Europe. It was then and probably still is now. There are other clubs that would take issue with that, but the Dutch club, the Neptunus Club, has won a lot of European championships on top of Dutch championships. So we won a Dutch championship while I was there in '93. It was a cool life experience, and it sort of got my itch for European baseball. It made me itchier, if you will. It didn't just scratch the itch. And several years later, I had, at that point in the interim, already been a independent player and manager and a college coach. I was a pitching coach for a few years at Iona College in New Rochelle, New York. I had started working as an attorney in New York, and I applied to an online job posting and ended up back in Europe as player manager for the Tübingen Hawks, which is a German so-called major league team. Had another amazing life experience. Really loved that chance to be in European baseball where you can be at the top level of the game, but it's not, for anyone involved, it's not the only thing they do. So the top European players are either students by day or have jobs by day. Almost no one is really a full-time baseball player, but yet you're at the top level of the game. And that sort of balance makes everything a little bit different than it is in the US when you're playing at the top level. Obviously, there's very little money over there and very little attention paid to baseball, but it's just a really cool environment, and it's cool to be at the top level of the game. So we had a good season in 2001, loved that, and came back, worked a few more years as a lawyer, and then got an opportunity to be the head coach of the Great Britain national team. And I ended up, after a 6-month stint living over there with my wife and my 5-year-old and my 9-week-old twins. I have a very patient wife. I came back and then did this so I continued to be the Great Britain national team coach on a weekend and vacation basis for 7 years while my career as a real estate attorney kept progressing. And when that ended in 2010, after a silver medal in the European Championships in 2007 and a World Cup appearance in 2009, where we played against Cuba, for example, in Puerto Rico, just fantastic opportunities. Then then I started Old World Baseball, and I have a partner, Tom Gillespie, who is a Pittsburgh Pirates scout now. He's an international scout, handles primarily Europe and Africa, and he and I started this side business. Again, I'm still a commercial real estate attorney, and for the last 12 years, we've been running baseball trips to Europe for high school players that are on their way to play college baseball. We've been in almost every European country at this point, mostly through Tom's connections. We know all of the key people in European baseball, so we're able to arrange appropriate competition, and we make it a very much a combined baseball travel and baseball playing experience. You don't need to go to Europe just for the baseball, but to go over there and have the travel experience and still have high level baseball opportunities and play against European national teams is pretty cool. Most of us will never represent the U.S. on the baseball field in an official way, and this is as close as it gets because we're playing for example, this summer we'll play the Czech U18 team, and we'll play the Swedish U18 team and the Great Britain U18 team, and those guys are representing their countries. So for them to be wearing their national team jerseys and us to be wearing Old World jerseys and playing against them is really special. So that's about it, except that 2 years ago we added on to that with fall ball abroad, and now for the first time, I think a college baseball or softball player has the opportunity to go study abroad in their fall semester and not stop playing their sport in a serious way. So unlike me, who went to Vienna in the fall of my junior year in 1990 and didn't pick up a baseball for 4 months, those baseball and softball players that participate in fall ball abroad can have a real study abroad experience with IES Abroad, one of the big international study abroad organizations in Amsterdam, and at the same time get high level training opportunities with Dutch elite coaches and using the Amsterdam Pirates facility in Amsterdam.
Yeah, so I guess my question and a follow-up to that is just talk about maybe the growth of international baseball and how, maybe that's helped your company and obviously maybe fall abroad baseball as well. Just kind of the growth of international baseball, especially in Europe, and how it has made it easier to recruit people or, incentivize people to be like, hey, you can come join Old World Baseball, or hey, you can do this fall abroad program. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so great question, Mike. So first of all, obviously international baseball outside of Europe in places like Asia and Latin America, it's a big deal, right? And not everywhere in Asia, of course, but we're talking about two different worlds. So there's international baseball in places outside the US where the game is really highly developed and they have strong professional leagues, and then baseball within Europe. So baseball within Europe has actually not grown in a linear way. It's really moved backwards and forwards and fits and starts over the years. So if you can believe it, 100 years ago, baseball in Britain was probably a bigger deal than it was until about a year ago. I'll just use Great Britain as an example because it's near and dear to my heart, having been involved in that program for a long time. Baseball in Britain is really only played by a few thousand people. So, you're talking about a very large nation, and it's not huge, but it's got a very large population, and a very small percentage of that population actually plays baseball. So it's not a huge sport even in that country, but that I think is beginning to change. A lot of attention has been focused on that program over the last about 1 year now, since Drew Spencer, the current GB head coach, and his team performed so well in the World Baseball Classic in Phoenix in March. That really got a lot of attention, a lot of eyeballs within Britain. I think that Great Britain baseball is actually poised for growth now in a way that it really hasn't been for a long time. If Great Britain ends up in the Olympics on the baseball field, which seems very possible, then I think that will also be a great catalyst towards the growth of the game, because when people are aware of the sport, which has not historically been the case in Great Britain, it makes a difference, right? Then people want to play it. If they have no idea that baseball even exists, and a lot of Brits have said that to me over the years, oh, wait, we actually have a baseball team, then it's hard to get people to play it. So that's one example. The Dutch baseball program is much more developed. The Dutch play at a completely different level domestically than the Brits do. It's maybe the fourth or fifth largest sport in Holland and in the Netherlands, I should say. So a lot of people understand baseball there, and it's played at a high level, and they have good coaching. So even within Europe, there are huge variations of the level of play, but growth has not been linear.
Let's take a minute then and talk about, the fall abroad baseball. The one thing that you mentioned when you sent me kind of a little bit of a blur about it was that it's about the experiences overall, not just the baseball. Now, obviously, baseball is important to you, and it's probably a big reason why you started. But talk about that as well, like because it's when student athletes like to go to these abroad programs, as you have known from experience, like you're trying to get the experience of being overseas and just like immersing yourself in a different culture and that type of thing. So talk about that and the importance of that as well for continuing to build fall abroad baseball for future college athletes to want to do in the future.
Yeah, I mean, really, the consistent theme of Old World is, if there is one, is that we think baseball is fantastic. Baseball is obviously fun, um, but it's provided great experiences to me and to Tom, and obviously many people, countless people, love the game of baseball. People also love to do other things with their lives. So what I saw happening many years ago was that travel sports in general, and travel baseball in particular, were starting to overtake people's lives. Getting back to it, um, basically, it's our view that it's not essential for someone who's serious about a sport to devote all of their time to that sport to the exclusion of everything else. And in many ways, it's great. And I think you can appreciate this as an Amherst grad. It's great to have a balance of interests. It helps keep things in perspective. So we feel what we've done both with our trips in the summer and with fall ball abroad is we've given people an opportunity to play the sport and work on their sport at a very high level and in a very serious way, and really to get as much work in as they want to. And actually, in some cases, more work than they would be able to do if they were home on their own college campuses because of NCAA hour limitations for practices in the off season. They can get all that work in, but at the same time, not sacrifice the opportunity to study abroad and to be a real study abroad participant, just like the non-baseball or softball players are. So the theme here again is, hey, baseball is great. And if you want to be the best baseball player, or in the case of fall ball abroad, the best softball player you can be, then we're going to give you that opportunity because we're hooking you up with great coaches. You're going to be able to practice in a very serious environment. You're also going to have independent access to very good facilities, which the Amsterdam Pirates provide, for example. But at the same time, you can travel around Europe on the weekends, and you can get to know the city of Amsterdam and come home having felt like you were a study abroad participant.
That's incredible. That's an awesome. I'm glad that you guys are obviously doing this. But I guess my final question is, what's the ultimate goal that you see for old world baseball and fall baseball abroad that, that when you and Tom are looking 5 years from now, what's the ultimate goal you guys are trying to accomplish with this?
Yeah, so this is not ever going to be a serious money-making venture, right? This is a passion project. Both Tom and I have day jobs, but we love this and we're proud of it. And what our goal is for the most possible, for now, baseball and softball players, and maybe down the road, participants in other sports where there's a good fit in Europe, to have the opportunity to study abroad and take advantage of it not just in Amsterdam, but ideally within a couple of years in places like London and Barcelona and Prague as well, where there are good baseball contacts and good baseball infrastructure for us to use and partner with. Um, if in 5 years we had 100 baseball and softball players and maybe some rowers or some other athletes in a fall program in Europe or in various fall programs in Europe, I think that would be amazing. We would have basically out of thin air created something that has given 100 kids at that point a year an opportunity to do something they otherwise may not have done. I mean, it's pretty clear that student athletes in general are much less likely to participate in study abroad. And we've had a number of our participants, and at this point we're only in year 2, and we've had 12 participants so far. Hopefully another 8 to 10 or 12 will be in Amsterdam this fall. But a number of them and a number of the current applicants have said, hey, if you guys weren't offering something like this, we would not have studied abroad. And getting those kids, those student athletes, an opportunity to study abroad that would not otherwise have done so, and giving them an opportunity to keep up with their sport and return to their campuses ready to go, that's something that we are proud of, and we hope we can grow.
Well, Stefan, I wanted to say thank you so much for doing this. I'm so glad that we were able to make this happen, this podcast. It's really cool what you're doing. Like it's cool to see a former Amherst grad doing great things within the sports world. I know obviously you're doing stuff as a real estate attorney too, but I'm saying that being able to continue that passion that you had obviously is incredible. So thank you so much on behalf of me to come on this podcast. This was really cool and I really enjoyed it.
Thanks, Mike. I really appreciate it. And I definitely would not want to have to come on here and talk about being a commercial real estate attorney.
No, that's that's why I'm glad you're continuing, the success of